In my past life, my sister and fiancé conspired with my good brother to destroy my company. They stood beside him, laughing wildly as they watched my miserable figure collapse in the torrential rain after my bankruptcy. Sincere Ashton, you look just like a dog. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 3 years in the past, at the project bidding conference. In my previous life, when my company was just starting, my sister and fiancé had warned me. They forbid me from leveraging the influence of the Ashton or Zhao families, claiming it was unfair to others. But then they turned around and used various pretexts to hand projects over to my good brother, just to see him smile. Reborn, I watched as they secretly manipulated things just like before to give the project meant for me to Ethan. My heart finally grew completely cold towards them. When they learned I was going abroad, my sister and fiancé set off fireworks all night, celebrating that they were finally rid of me, the burden. But 3 years later, at the Yilan Group's bidding conference, when I took the stage to speak as the president's husband, their eyes turned red. After returning to S-City, I never expected the first familiar face I'd see would be my former good brother, Ethan Grayson. Ethan Grayson, president of Zhenhao Company, admitted to S-City's top university with outstanding scores at 18. Started from scratch after graduation and rose to become a new star in the business world in just 3 years. On the first floor of the Jinlin building, the television screen between the 2 elevators endlessly scrolled through the achievements of this S-City business elite since his entrepreneurial debut. 3 years had passed. The timid insecurity from his rural upbringing was gone, replaced by an air of nobility beneath his bespoke suit. Wealth truly elevates a person. Today was the Yilan Group's project bidding conference in S-City, and reporters were already lying in wait, starting from the lobby. I kept my gaze neutral, wanting nothing to do with him, but he approached me anyway. Mr. Ashton, it really is you. I almost didn't recognize you. You suddenly went abroad 3 years ago. I thought you were never coming back. Ethan Grayson's voice was loud, easily reaching the reporters gathered nearby. After he spoke, I could feel numerous probing glances fall upon me. An Ashton family, young master. Zhao, marriage. Yi, propose, pursue wife. Must. Amidst the deliberately hushed voices, a few fragmented words reached my ears. I glanced at Ethan. He feigned ignorance and continued, "Oh, why didn't you give a heads up about your sudden return? Could it be that you heard? And Mr. Ashton, I'm sorry, I misspoke." He seemed to realize his slip of the tongue midway, but his apologetic tone tinged with feigned panic, clearly aimed to lead bystanders into further misunderstanding. A bold reporter had already shouted out, "We heard that both Isabel Ashton, the chief designer at Wei's Jewelry, and Melanie Chadwick, the daughter of the Zhao family, are planning to propose to you, Mr. Grayson. Is this true or false? And Mr. Grayson, if Ms. Ashton and Ms. Chadwick propose at the same time, who will you accept?" Ethan evaded the question. "Well, those are currently just online rumors. I hope everyone can be rational. Also, Isabel and Melanie are both wonderful people. We are very good friends right now." The elevator arrived at that moment. He bowed slightly and smiled. Excuse me. I need to give a speech at the Yilan Group's bidding conference shortly. I have to go up and prepare." He even asked me courteously, "Mr. Ashton, would you like to come upstairs together?" I hesitated for only a moment, and the reporters, unable to get an answer from Ethan, turned their attention towards me. "Mr. Ashton, we heard you were pursuing Ms. Chadwick before you went abroad. Did you suddenly return because you heard she plans to propose to Mr. Grayson? When we heard Ms. Ashton is your sister. Mr. Ashton, can you accept Mr. Grayson as your brother-in-law? If Ms. Chadwick really proposes to Mr. Grayson, what will you do? Intervene or offer your blessing?" Their eyes were hungry like wolves, their heavy breathing filled with greed and urgency. Most reporters don't care about the truth, they only want sensationalism. I believed that if I didn't respond, various speculations about the reason for my return would flood the internet within less than an hour. An image of a certain someone who easily got jealous surfaced in my mind, and I waved Ethan off. In that case, I'll head up first. Before the elevator doors closed, a mocking smirk only I could see flickered across Ethan Grayson's lips. I withdrew my gaze, turned to face the reporters, and was about to pull out my invitation when a sharp voice cried out from nearby. "Sincere Ashton, who allowed you to come here? Are you planning to steal Ethan's project again just like 3 years ago?" The camera swiveled towards the sound. My ex-fiancée, Melanie Chadwick, was striding angrily towards me on her long legs beneath a tight miniskirt. Chapter 2. It was like this 3 years ago, and it's still like this now. Sincere Ashton, will you ever stop? Faced with Melanie Chadwick's accusations, I frowned slightly. What do you mean? The fiancé who once promised me forever in my arms now looked at me with undisguised disgust. Doesn't everyone in S-City know that Yelan Group's preferred partner for this project is Ethan? If you weren't here to snatch his project, why else would you suddenly return from abroad? Yelan Group's preferred partner is Ethan Grayson. Since when did I know about this? My eyes flickered, but Melanie mistook it for guilt after being exposed. Her existing disgust was now tinged with contempt. Do you still think you can bully Ethan relying on your Ashton family status? Yelan Group isn't like those small companies in S-City. They won't care about your Ashton family identity. If you don't want to face humiliation, you'd better leave right now. I took out my invitation and waved it in front of her. Excuse me, I was invited to attend this bidding conference. You have no right to make me leave. Don't be ungrateful. Melanie gritted her teeth, about to threaten me, but amidst the reporter's whispers, her expression shifted to one of sudden understanding. She looked at me scornfully. Sincere Ashton, I told you long ago, our engagement is off. Can you please stop pestering me? Regardless of what happens between Ethan and me in the future, there's no possibility between you and me. You're overthinking things. I only came to attend the bidding conference. I'm already married, and I'm not interested in who you end up with. I didn't lower my voice. Explaining to Melanie was secondary. The main point was to clarify things for the surrounding reporters. The onlookers quieted down, but Melanie scoffed. Sincere Ashton, is this fun for you? Do you think lying about being married will make me anxious? Let me tell you, playing hard to get won't work. I couldn't care less whether you're married or not. And see, no. I nodded and stepped into the elevator that had just arrived on the first floor. As long as the reporters didn't print nonsense, whether Melanie Chadwick believed me or not didn't concern me. As I pressed the close button, Melanie followed me inside. The elevator doors closed, leaving just the two of us in the confined space. Melanie asked with a dark expression, "Onsen, name your price." "What will it take for you to leave?" I replied with a half-smile. "I'd have so little faith in Ethan Grayson." "Tak, how could you possibly compare to Ethan?" she sneered. "After Ethan signs the contract with Yelan Group, I'm going to propose to him right here. If you're present, I'm afraid he might misunderstand." I replied emotionlessly with 2 words. "Congratulations. Can you stop making a scene? I know you're jealous, but you can't force matters of the heart. Making a scene like this isn't good for either of us." Her tone was weary, yet held a hint of condescension, as if offering charity. "How about this? If you leave right now, I'll make the decision to give you 2 projects from Xiao Corporation." I shook my head lightly. "Said I don't need them." Hearing this, her tone turned hostile. "I just don't want to upset Ethan. You'd better quit while you're ahead, or be careful you don't end up with nothing." After that, no matter what Melanie said, I didn't respond. By the time the elevator doors opened, her face was flushed with anger. She stormed out, shot a final command at Isabel Ashton, who was standing by the door, before stomping away on her high heels. "Control your brother." I looked at my own sister, born of the same mother, standing outside the door and cursed my luck inwardly. I intended to ignore her, but she grabbed my arm as I stepped out of the elevator. Isabel Ashton forcibly pulled me into a secluded corner and looked at me coldly. "What are you doing here?" I replied calmly. "On bed. Nonsense." "Go back immediately," Isabel scolded. "Are you planning to steal Ethan's project again just like 3 years ago?" Chapter 3. Isabel Ashton's words were almost identical to what Melanie Chadwick had said when she first appeared. I looked up at the person who was now my closest blood relative in this world, feeling only irony. The project 3 years ago was a joint investment by the Ashton and Zhao corporations. It wasn't large, but for a startup company it was a rare opportunity. Thinking I had an inside track, I went to ask Isabel for it, but she shot it down immediately. When Melanie heard the news, she came over and berated me. They said it was unfair to the small companies starting from scratch, but I didn't understand. Business is fundamentally about leveraging resources. Since I had the ability to complete the project and the connections, why couldn't I use them? Later I found out it was because of Ethan Grayson, who was also competing for the same project. No sooner had Isabel and Melanie warned me than they each dispatched professional teams to help Ethan polish his project proposal. Furthermore, when I was about to win by a single vote, they personally intervened as judges to cast the deciding votes for Ethan, allowing him to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Faced with my questions, they defended themselves righteously. "Hey, can't you have some empathy? You have the Ashton and Zhao families as fallbacks, but Ethan has no choice but to succeed. Since we have the ability, of course, we should help him out." In my previous life, I refused to accept it and exposed the matter publicly, causing Ethan's bid to fail. Later, I repeatedly opposed him. To vent Ethan's frustration, Isabel and Melanie joined forces to attack my company, leading me to bankruptcy even before Ethan. When I was hounded by creditors with nowhere to turn, the two people who should have been closest to me stood by Ethan's side, coldly mocking my miserable state. I lost consciousness in the torrential rain, and when I opened my eyes, I was back at the project bidding conference 3 years earlier, watching Isabel and Melanie cheat for Ethan at the last moment, just as they had in my past life. My heart died completely. After dissolving my company, on the very night they were celebrating Ethan's success, I boarded a plane abroad alone. In 3 years, they never contacted me once. Yet the first time they saw me upon my return, they were full of suspicion, terrified I would harm the person they cherished most. Even having lived 2 lives, I still felt a dull ache in my heart. I looked at Isabel with reddened eyes and repeated the words she had used 3 years ago when she asked me to withdraw before the bidding started. "I'm not participating in this bid under the Ashton family name. You have no right to make me leave." With that, I shook off her hand and started to walk away. But I hadn't taken 2 steps before 2 bodyguards suddenly appeared and blocked my path. I turned to look at Isabel, but her expression remained flat as she said, "If Ethan secures this project, his company can go public at least 2 years earlier. I can't let you ruin his chance." If the representative of a bidding company doesn't show up, they automatically forfeit the bid and the spot goes to the next bidder. She had supported Ethan for 3 years, yet still lacked confidence in his abilities, resorting to cheating like this to help him even now. And yet such a worthless person could cause the 2 people closest to me to betray me, one after another. I couldn't help but want to laugh, yet I also felt a sense of desolation. I wanted to ask Isabel what exactly she liked about Ethan Grayson, but the thought felt pointless. A lifetime of death stood between us. Whatever the reason, there was no possibility of reconciliation. "Isabel Ashton, do you think these 2 can stop me?" She frowned. "What did you call me?" "Sheh." I gave a short laugh and turned towards the bodyguards. "Stop him." After Isabel's sharp command, the 2 muscular bodyguards lunged at me. As their hands reached for my shoulders, I suddenly stepped forward, leaned back, and simultaneously jabbed with my fingertips towards the armpits exposed as they raised their arms. The bodyguards quickly changed tactics, pressing down, but I retracted my hands to my chest, straightened my back forcefully, and used the momentum to lean forward, striking both bodyguards in the chest with simultaneous elbow strikes. Thump thump, the bodyguards stumbled back. I stepped past them, and before they could regain their footing, delivered a powerful palm strike to each of their backs while they staggered, creating distance. With that, our positions were reversed. Just as the two bodyguards steadied themselves and prepared to charge again, I took a step back, positioning myself within the surveillance camera's view. "Stop!" Isabel quickly called off the bodyguards, then looked at me with a complicated expression. "When did you become so skilled?" I silently glanced at her before heading towards the bidding hall. Yes, why indeed? Security abroad is much worse than here, yet the frequency with which I encountered robberies each month was several times higher than average. If I hadn't learned to defend myself, I would have died overseas long ago. By the time I entered the bidding hall, Ethan Grayson's speech was nearing its end. My seat wasn't far from Melanie Chadwick's. Seeing me, she mocked in a low voice. "I didn't expect your sister to be so useless, letting you slip in anyway." She gestured towards the man on stage, her eyes filled with undisguised admiration and affection. "See? If Yilan Group hadn't already decided to give the project to Ethan, why would they specifically invite him onto the stage to speak? Since you're here, you'd better stay put and behave. If you ruin things for Ethan, don't blame me for being ruthless." Just then, Isabel Ashton also entered the hall. Seeing that everyone had arrived, my lips curved slightly, and I gave a subtle nod in a specific direction. After Ethan finished his last sentence and was about to step down, the host went up and kept him on stage. "I'm sure you all recognize him. This is the rising star of S-City's business world, Mr. Ethan Grayson. He started from scratch and achieved his current status in just 3 years. After a series of praises, the host's expression suddenly changed, and his tone shifted. Chapter 4 and 2 demonstrate Yilan Group's commitment to investing in S-City and fostering mutually beneficial cooperation with all our colleagues in the business community. We not only invited Mr. Ethan Grayson to speak, but have also invited him to announce the result of this project's bidding on behalf of the company." Ethan's polished smile froze. He pulled the host aside and whispered a few questions. A moment later, apparently having reached an agreement, the host handed him a cue card and enthusiastically announced, "Now, let's have Mr. Ethan Grayson announce the company that has successfully won the bid for this project." Ethan took the microphone and looked at the card, reading, "Son, I announce that the company that has successfully won the bid for this project is Boji Limited, and the owner is Mr. Sin. Impossible." Seeing the last few words, the smile he struggled to maintain vanished completely. The card fell from his hand, and his shrill voice almost pierced the ceiling. As Ethan looked over, I gave him a slight smile. Simultaneously, the host's tone grew heavy. "Mr. Grayson, do you have any dissatisfaction with our company's decision?" "No, none." Ethan snapped back to reality and immediately denied it, but then hurriedly asked, Could there have been a mistake in writing it down? Perhaps someone else won the bid? Please do not doubt the competence of my group's employees. Mr. Grayson, please return to your seat." Ethan didn't want to move, but under the host's sharp gaze, he shuffled off the stage. The host glanced at him coldly before addressing the audience, and making a mistake on something so simple. It seems this rising star of S-City's business world isn't as capable as imagined. Now, allow me to announce the result of this bid. He picked up the card from the floor and formally declared, "I announce that the company that has successfully won the bid for this project is Boji Limited, and the owner is Mr. Sincere Ashton. And now, let's welcome Mr. Sincere Ashton to the stage." Amidst the stunned gazes of Melanie Chadwick and Isabel Ashton, I stood up, adjusted my clothes, and slowly walked onto the stage, offering the audience a perfectly appropriate smile. "Good morning, everyone. I am Sincere Ashton, the owner of Boji Limited, and I am extremely honored to become Yilan Group's partner. In the future, I hope to receive the support and assistance of my colleagues in the S-City business community. Let us achieve mutual benefit and progress together. A hush fell over the venue. Clearly, most people had expected Ethan Grayson to win the bid, and the current result left them momentarily stunned. But soon, the venue filled with congratulatory remarks. Congratulations, Mr. Ashton, felicitations. But Mr. Ashton, we look forward to cooperating with you. Congratulations. Congratulations, Mr. Ashton is truly young and promising. I smiled and acknowledged each one, and the cheers grew louder. Business people prioritize profit over sentiment. As long as they could potentially cooperate and get a piece of the pie in the future, they didn't truly care who won the bid. But soon, a voice discordant with the atmosphere rang out. Sincere Ashton, you've really gone too far this time. Chapter 5. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Isabel Ashton pushed through the crowd to the front of the stage and raised her hand to slap me. After I dodged it, her face etched with fury and disappointment. Unsincere Ashton, didn't I tell you? Even though you're part of the Ashton family, if you're starting a business, you are not allowed to use the family's power for personal gain. Everyone works hard surveying sites and preparing proposals. You just open your mouth, say you're an Ashton, and take the project. Do you think that's fair to the other companies? I glanced at Ethan Grayson, whose face was pale in his seat, and said mockingly to Isabel, "Are you speaking up for everyone, or just for Ethan Grayson?" Isabel's expression flickered unnaturally for a moment, but then she became indignant again. "Don't twist my words. Ethan worked tirelessly day and night for this project. What right do you have to compare yourself to him?" I retorted coldly. "How do you know I didn't do the same? And your sister, do I not know you?" She sneered. "Once as the pampered young master of the Ashton family. Back when you lived at home, didn't you always sleep until 10 in the morning? With such a lazy disposition, what kind of decent proposal could you possibly create?" Immediately, people's expressions changed. Those surrounding me instinctively distanced themselves slightly, and deliberately hushed whispers flowed among them. "Is that true?" Said Isabel Ashton is his own sister. She wouldn't lie on purpose, would she? That makes sense. So Mr. Ashton really got the project through connections? Credibility is paramount in business cooperation. If the suspicion of cheating was confirmed today, I would undoubtedly face obstacles everywhere in S-City's business circle. I looked at the impassioned Isabel, my gaze turning cold. This was my own flesh and blood sister. For a crush who was still stringing her along, she could push her own brother towards ruin. Clap, clap, clap applause sounded from the side. "Ms. Ashton, are you implying that my Yilan Group engaged in favoritism?" All eyes turned towards a woman in a black business dress, who was slowly walking onto the stage. Isabel's face paled slightly. "Who are you?" the host introduced proudly. "Consider yourselves fortunate today. This is the president of our Yilan Group, President Victoria Summers." Victoria shot me an imperceptible glare, then continued without any visible anger. "Ms. Ashton, you haven't answered my question." Isabel opened her mouth, struggling to speak. "So I didn't mean that." "So if that's not what you meant, then why did you say that just now?" Victoria lifted Isabel's chin, her red lips parting slightly. "I heard you're this Mr. Ashton's own sister. Why would you frame him in front of so many people? I'm very curious. Can you give me a reason? What could possibly make a sister hate her own flesh and blood brother so much, even to the point of destroying him?" Her tone wasn't particularly harsh, yet Isabel was rendered speechless. How boring. Victoria examined her chin from side to side, then released her, taking out a tissue to wipe her fingertips. Just a pretty face with no brains. What a pity. The esteemed Miss Ashton had never suffered such humiliation. Her eyes immediately reddened. "Enough." Melanie Chadwick shot up from her seat. Even if you are the president of Yilan Group, you can't shield someone who constantly pulls strings, can you? She glanced at me with disgust, her tone resentful. President Summers, you probably don't know, this isn't the first time Sincere Ashton has done this. Victoria's eyes twinkled, a faint smile playing on her lips. Oh, you mean the incident 3 years ago? Melanie's eyes lit up slightly. Exactly for that project, because both the Zhao and Ashton families were investors. Sincere Ashton leveraged his status as the Ashton family's young master and, at the time, my Zhao family's future son-in-law, and tried to force the review panel to award the project to him. If Isabel and I hadn't discovered it in time, he would have succeeded back then. He fled abroad later because of this incident, too. This was the umpteenth time today I'd heard about the incident 3 years ago. Having heard it so many times, I felt numb to it, and even somewhat fortunate. At least I had gone abroad early in this life, otherwise, this wouldn't be the only thing she could repeatedly attack me with. In my past life, I was dead set on opposing Ethan Grayson. But every time I was close to victory, Isabel or Melanie would jump in, using the power of both families' corporations to help him deal with me, and then push all the blame onto me. History is written by the victors. As the young master of the Ashton family, my inability to recover after bankruptcy was largely due to them collaborating to destroy my credibility. However, I didn't speak, instead waiting for Victoria to continue. After hearing Melanie's words, she let out a few soft chuckles and suddenly said, "However, the truth I heard seems rather different from your version." Melanie glared at me. "President Summers, you must have been deceived by Sincere Ashton." "Shh, I never said I heard it from Mr. Ashton." Victoria raised an eyebrow and clapped her hands lightly. "I'll let them in." Chapter 6. Several members of the project review panel from 3 years ago walked in, and they were all from the Zhao Corporation. Victoria asked, "Do you recognize them?" Melanie's face paled slightly, but she didn't dare deny it. Victoria smiled with satisfaction. "So, can you tell me exactly who was it that pulled strings and cheated back then?" Melanie remained silent. I interjected, "And Chadwick, weren't you just loudly proclaiming how I abused my power back then? Why are you silent now?" She didn't dare talk back to Victoria, but showed me no courtesy. "You're a grown man, can't you be less petty? So what if I wrongly accused you once back then? Do you really have to hold a grudge until now? Don't forget, I'm your fiancée." Victoria's gaze drifted over. I stated firmly, "Don't say that. Ex-fiancée. Our engagement was called off 3 years ago. It's fine. Even if you don't speak, someone else will." I randomly pointed to one of the former panel members and had him recount exactly what happened 3 years ago. Instantly, everyone's expressions towards Melanie and Isabel changed. Even more despicable than cheating is cheating, and then blaming someone else, especially blaming those closest to you. It's no different from backstabbing. Facing the resentful glares of Melanie and Isabel, I curved my lips. In this industry, at least in S-City, their reputations were ruined. It was only natural they hated me. However, it wasn't over yet. Looking at the two women, looking utterly devastated, I offered a helpful reminder. "Haven't you wondered why these men are cooperating with me so readily?" Victoria's light and cheerful voice rang out. "And because the Zhao Corporation has been acquired by me." Melanie snapped her head up, staring at us in disbelief. I continued helpfully, "If you don't believe it, you can make a call right now to check." Melanie fumbled for her phone, only to find there was no signal. I feigned sudden realization, slapping my forehead with a look of annoyance. "Sorry, I forgot. The signal jammer is still on." I signaled the host. After he left and returned, I continued, "Osik, you can try calling again now." Melanie ran off to the side with her phone to make the call. Isabel, however, seemed to have realized something. Pointing at the host, she suddenly asked, "How did you know there was a signal jammer here? And why is he taking orders from you?" Signed, "Yes. Why indeed?" I curved my lips and said to Victoria, "Teach your wife. Why don't you tell her why?" "Taint wife." Wife. Isabel murmured the word twice, her eyes darting between me and Victoria. You two are married? I nodded. Victoria gave her a sweet smile. No wonder, no wonder. Isabel slumped to the floor. No wonder you started defending him the moment you appeared. No wonder you wanted to clear his name. She asked with a bitter smile, "'Tis bidding conference today. It was a trap deliberately set by you two, wasn't it?" I nodded. Actually, this setup today didn't affect my revenge plan, but Victoria knew deeply that the bidding conference 3 years ago was one of my nightmares, so she meticulously arranged today's events. The only mishap was encountering the three of them outside first, which almost made me late. Isabel asked again, "Unjao Corporation has been acquired by you. The Ashton Corporation can't be much better off, can it?" Victoria pouted. "On calling you brainless wasn't wrong. You really aren't bright. The Ashton Corporation will belong to Sincere in the future. Why would I touch it?" She made a small gesture with her thumb and forefinger to indicate a small amount. "It's just that a few shareholders were being difficult, so I simply acquired their shares." Victoria gave a coy smile. "Roughly. Now, only the shares in your hands are left, I suppose." After confirming the truth, Isabel actually started to laugh. Sitting on the floor, she looked at me, showing a wronged expression. "Xiaolan, I'm your own sister. Why did you plot against me like this? Aunt own sister?" I pursed my lips and retorted, "Did you ever truly consider me your brother in your heart?" He said, "How did I not treat you as my brother?" She suddenly grew angry and started berating me. "Don't you forget, after Mom and Dad passed away when you were little, who was it that comforted you to sleep every day, cheered you up and ate with you? Without me, your sister, could you have grown up so peacefully?" Chapter 7. I looked at the hysterical Isabel, a bitter taste filling my mouth. Yes, she used to be very good to me. So good that even when she stabbed me in the back time and again for Ethan Grayson, I foolishly believed she was just temporarily blinded. Only finally waking up when I collapsed on that rainy night. After the host escorted the irrelevant personnel out of the venue, I looked at Isabel and suddenly said, "It was for the 20 shares, wasn't it?" In the instant she fell silent, I clenched my fists and spoke slowly, and he always wondered. We relied on each other for so many years. Even if you found someone you liked, your attitude towards me shouldn't have done a complete 180. It was too strange. I laughed, tears streaming down my face. Later I figured it out. Please, Melanie Chadwick is a princess raised in luxury. It's understandable she might be fooled by that waste, Ethan Grayson. But how could you fall for it too? I glanced at Ethan, who hadn't spoken for a long time, and tugged at the corner of my mouth. Perhaps you genuinely liked him a little, but mostly you used him as a cover to deal with me, right? To divert my attention from the shares. I looked down at Isabel again. And the robberies I encountered abroad. Some of them were orchestrated by you, weren't they? This last question seemed to be the final straw. She collapsed completely onto the floor, but still managed to ask me one thing. Said, "Shh, how did you know?" And first it was just suspicion. I leaned against the lectern and continued my confession. Until one time I was robbed abroad, the person had already taken my money but still made the unnecessary move to kill me. Your methods weren't very sophisticated. Once I started investigating, following the clues, it was easy to uncover the whole truth. I wiped away the increasing tears, my laughter turning manic. Look, sister, how much trust I must have placed in you and your eyes that you never suspected I'd see through your flawed schemes. But why couldn't you trust me a little more? My mood plummeted, my voice becoming suppressed. Oh, you've been raising me since I was 5. Why would you think that money would be more important to me than you? You just needed to say the word. Just one word, and I would have transferred those shares to you unconditionally. Son, you really just needed to say the word. 5 soft fingers firmly threaded through mine, lacing our hands together. I turned my head. Victoria's red lips moved, forming silent yet firm words. Don't be afraid. I'm here. 3 years ago, the first time I was hunted, I unexpectedly met Victoria Summers, who was in a similar plight. After escaping, we collapsed onto the ground, utterly exhausted. As the adrenaline faded, the accumulated grievances of 2 lifetimes surged from the depths of my heart, and I suddenly broke down crying. Completely disregarding my image, just as suicidal thoughts began to surface, she took the initiative to hold my hand and whispered 4 words gently in my ear. Don't be afraid, I'm here. From that day on, I knew, even if the whole world betrayed me, she would always be by my side. Memory returning to the present, I looked at Isabel and put on a polite, fake smile. Anu raised me for many years, so despite you repeatedly sending people to kill me, I won't report you to the police. I placed the share transfer agreement I had prepared earlier in front of her. However, for fairness's sake, since your goal was the shares, you must also transfer your shares to me and leave the Ashton Corporation. Isabel looked up at me, her face filled with remorse. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Xiaolan, can you give your sister another chance? I shook my head and gently handed her the pen. A shattered mirror cannot be restored, and some mistakes cannot be undone. Sign it. After you sign, we'll be even. Isabel gripped the pen tightly, and before large teardrops soaked the paper, she chose to sign her name. As she got up to leave, she didn't spare Ethan Grayson another glance. Chapter 8. Just as Ethan Grayson was about to speak, I interrupted with a sneer. What? Thought she would take you with her? Isabel, already at the doorway, paused for a moment but ultimately did nothing. Melanie Chadwick had already disregarded everything and fled after learning about Zhao Corporation's bankruptcy. In the previous life, she bankrupted me. In this life, I bankrupted Zhao Corporation. My revenge was complete. For such a pampered, privileged young lady, without the backing of the Zhao Corporation, the hardships and torment of life would be a punishment worse than death. There was no need for me to do anything more. Only Victoria, Ethan Grayson, and I remained in the venue. Watching me sit down leisurely nearby, Ethan spoke with outward bravado but inner fear. Don't get cocky. This is a society ruled by law. If you dare to do anything to me, the law won't let you get away with it. My long-held low spirits were dispelled by this sentence, making me laugh. Sa-ha-ha, that's hilarious. I can't believe the word law actually came out of your mouth. Bad people rarely commit only one crime. I didn't believe Ethan, after tasting the benefits, would have only targeted me. So before returning, I had investigated him thoroughly. The combined power of the Zhao and Ashton families could practically cover the sky in S-City, but Isabel and Melanie could only wield a fraction of that power, and Ethan kept many things hidden from them. With the help of Victoria's Yilan group, finding some evidence wasn't too difficult. I took out another file I had prepared and casually flipped through it. Tax evasion, forced transactions, causing bodily harm. Tossing the file onto him, I sneered, so many charges. Relying on Isabel's and Melanie's protection these past 2 years, you've been quite arrogant, Mr. Grayson. He tremblingly picked up the file, glanced at it, and threw it away like a hot potato. Sisu, you have no proof this is slander, I won't admit it. I couldn't help but chuckle softly. Who said I don't have proof? He shrank back, threatening. Well, sister and fiancé are accomplices. Even if they didn't know the details, are you willing to let them go to jail? I hissed, pressing down on the mischievous hand at my waist, and sat up straight. Former sister, ex-fiancé. After emphasizing this, I continued, but my revenge against them is over. The one potentially dragging them to jail is you. It has nothing to do with me. At most, I'm just a concerned citizen actively reporting a crime. Mr. Ashton, I was wrong. Please don't call the police, okay? Seeing I showed no mercy, Ethan Grayson truly panicked. He knelt on the floor and repeatedly slapped his own face. It was me, I lost my mind. I repaid kindness with malice, didn't know what was good for me. I bit the hand that fed me, unable to recognize kindness. You can hit me. Curse me, just please let me go. I'll do anything for you. Be your servant. Reborn. I had actually forgotten that I had even funded Ethan Grayson's university expenses back then. I actually raised such an ungrateful wolf. Recalling this memory, even the satisfaction of revenge lessened somewhat. Standing up, I took Victoria's hand and walked towards the door. As I passed him, I patted his shoulder. Everyone must take responsibility for their wrongdoings. Go inside and reform yourself well. If you ever get the chance to come out, we'll settle the rest of our score then. I didn't ask him the reason for targeting me, nor did I try to understand the source of his hatred. After all, given the severity and number of his crimes, forget getting out. He likely wouldn't see the light of day again. I've always been lenient towards those about to meet their end. I'll allow him to take his secrets to the grave. Stepping out of the building, sunlight crossing through time spilled onto us. Victoria laced her fingers with mine and suddenly asked, "What are your plans now?" Now? I thought for a moment, then swept her up into my arms bridal style. Amidst Victoria's startled cry, I walked towards the Maybach parked nearby. Now, it's time to go home. The past is gone, old grudges are settled. The sun is shining brightly, the time is right. Let's go home. Let's go home.